Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, October 21st, 2016, the WNW 259. I work on this all week long, folks. I work on the wrap up. I save newspapers. I usually have a stack of stuff. It just doesn't get in there. I just don't do it. I try to come up with a theme. I try to come up with some kind of story through the week. And I tell you what the theme is this week. And it's really been the theme for a while. But this week, more than any other week, is thought shaping, disinformation, mind control, negative imagery for the Trump campaign, and all done by the mainstream media. They seem desperate, and they're in lockstep. And a lot of times, I hear some of these people that comment on report. There's a lot of good reporters out there. Cheryl Atkinson. There's a lot of good reporters. No, they're not. If they were good reporters, they'd quit and start their own sites. If there are so many good reporters out there, they'd be out there reporting on the cutting edge of the WikiLeaks. I mean, the president of the United States has his own email address, a private email address. That should be front page news. And there's just so much out there. And instead, they give you disinformation. And let me tell you about the disinformation campaign that I spotted basically this week after Donald Trump said that, he wasn't so sure he was going to accept the results of the election, come November 9th, 2016, the day after the election. And of course, they leave out the fact that, Al Gore sued over that, and he sued, and he only wanted to inspect 3 counties in Florida. You remember that, Hanging Chads, all that. I was living in Florida at the time. And the 3 counties he sued to have a recount were the 3 counties he did the best in, southeastern Florida. Those are the 3 counties the Democrats did the best in, because he was looking for votes. He didn't want to do the whole state. He didn't want to do the whole statewide. He certainly didn't want to do it in the Panhandle, which is mostly Republican. He did it on the southeast corner of Florida, and he lost. And let me tell you, I was living down there, and the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, ABC, NBC, all the investigative guys, everybody went down to see if George Bush stole the election, and he didn't. When everything was finally tabulated, hanging chads and all, Bush did win. And that was a contested election. And I can't believe what Trump's doing to our democratic process. Voter fraud. So, USA Today, let's just use the nation's largest newspaper. They have 4.3 million readers, they say. And this is the story, folks. Voting officials insist there's no fraud. They insist there's no fraud. Trump ratchets up the rigging complaints. Donald Trump ratchets it up like voter fraud. Oh, come on, you're crazy. Before I go, I'll just hold this for right now, and I want to move on about this little thing. Downbeat generation. You're talking about millennials voting. Let's talk about millennials voting. And how Hillary Clinton is way ahead in the polls, and she's doing way better with women in the polls. Of course, that's just part of the electorate, but the millennials were largely Bernie Sanders fans, and what has popped out in the WikiLeaks that he was a doofus, quote, doofus, that Donna Brazile gave the questions and answers to Hillary Clinton before one of the Sanders-Clinton debates, that basically the WikiLeaks proved that the DNC and Clinton, the Democratic National Committee, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the head of it, was, stepped down and then got hired by Hillary Clinton, were colluding together. Totally false, totally wrong. And, you basically punked more than half of the Democrat voters. Because I think Bernie Sanders won. That's why I say more than half. He won despite the fact the rules were rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton, despite the fact that the DNC rigged it for Clinton and basically conspired with the press and everything else. So let's talk about these downbeat millennials. Will they even vote? That's the story. Will they vote in the election? Let me tell you who they're not going to vote for. Everyone, and this is just anecdotal information, everyone I see, every 20-year-old, 20-something-year-old. So who was your guy? Bernie Sanders. Oh, really? So are you going to vote for Hillary now? No, I'm not. I've said this before. You can't square that with a big lead when you disenfranchise more than half of your voters. And these are watch ABC, NBC, CBS. They do searches on the internet, for WikiLeaks document dumps. That's why they know that they've been screwed. They know that the Democrat Party punked them. They know that the Democrats behind the scenes with the WikiLeaks, thank you WikiLeaks, called Bernie Sanders, a doofus. They know that. And my prediction is that Trump will get more Sanders voters than Clinton will get. And the other thing is now Sanders is out on the road campaigning for Hillary Clinton. And what you're not hearing is all the reports of people, hollering out things like, you're a sellout. I mean, this is the guy that said Hillary Clinton should release her Wall Street speeches. Well, in one of them, she said, what I say in the public is totally different than what I say in private. My private position is totally different than what I tell the stupid masses, basically. Yeah, that she was bought and paid for by Wall Street, and that she's for these terrible trade deals like the Trans-Pacific Partnership that basically gut America of our jobs and sovereignty. And now he's campaigning for her because, kids need to have college education and they need to have free college. That's it? That's what you're down to? You just need to give people free college. How about the Trans-Pacific Partnership? You good with that? How about all the Wall Street, none of the bankers go to jail? You good to that? Good with that too? Bernie Sanders? Well, the supporters are not. I don't believe any of the polls. I'm sorry, I don't believe them. I don't believe them. The mainstream media is now been completely shown that it's totally biased and totally in cahoots, not just they lean left. I mean, one of the tweets that came out of the final debate, I think it was Jesse, what's his name with Bill O'Reilly, Jesse Waters, and he said, everybody was there clapping and laughing when Hillary scored a point, which is few, and everybody was hissing and booing and whatever, and when Donald Trump talked, and that was my experience at when the 2000 election was at Good Morning America, same thing. But now it's on steroids. It's unbelievable. And then we have, the reports that have come out, and this is a form of vote rigging, the Scott Fogle, who worked for liberal groups, such as People for the American Way and Americans United for Change. He was let go of the latter group, Americans United for Change, after the video surfaced, and the videos we're talking about in this little line I punched out of a news story. Scott Fogle video surfaced about protesters and about getting people who are mentally ill in some cases, also homeless people. New videos out now about how they were staging people at Trump rallies to act like they're Trump supporters and yelling at women and things like that. Dirty tricks. Yeah, Scott Fogle was up there with, he stepped down. Dirty tricks. That's a form of vote rigging, isn't it? You're not seeing that really reported in the mainstream press, although I think maybe the New York Times finally is thinking, wow, we are a news organization and we don't want to be committing fraud like Greg Hunter says we're committing against our readers and shareholders. And so what you got there is this big, this is the, folks, there's no fraud. There's no fraud. Really, there's no fraud. There's no fraud. Folks, there's no fraud, according to the mainstream press, because never give up the con. Never give up the scam that, it's very small. Here's the Pew research, Pew Center. This is their research. Approximately 24 million registered voters in the United States are no longer valid or significantly inaccurate. They think that we need a major overhaul in our system. More than 1.8 million deceased individuals are listed as voters. 1.8 million. And here we have approximately, this is from the Pew Center, approximately 2.75 million people have registrations in more than one state. That happened here in North Carolina in 2012. They, had 100,000 or so vote here and 100,000 or so vote other places. And, some of these Democrat states stopped sharing information with North Carolina. That made them look bad. There was voter fraud. I mean, you have to have an ID for everything, and we can't have black people that can. They'll be disenfranchised if they show an ID. Well, I guess you'd have to be disenfranchised if you had to show an ID to open a bank account, or if you were pulled over by the police. What do they say? A license and registration. But this is the Pew Center. I mean, 24 million voter registration in the United States, no longer valid. This is recent. More than 1.3 million deceased individuals are listed as voters. Approximately 2.57 million people have registrations in more than one state. You know, you can't vote in more than one state. No voter fraud, folks. No voter fraud. Okay, here we go. This is from the Blaze. Odd. Romney got 0 votes in 59 precincts in Philadelphia, Philly, 9 precincts in Ohio. 0. That's statistically impossible unless there's voter fraud. This is November 12, 2012 in the Blaze, just a few days after the November 2012 election. Romney, no votes in that many precincts in 2 different states. Here's what's currently going on. No voter fraud? No voter fraud? Here's what's currently going on. In Colorado, multiple instances were found of dead people attempting to vote. In Texas, authorities are investigating criminals who are using techniques of vote harvesting to illegally procure votes for their candidates. Texas has opened a voter fraud hotline. Also, possible voter fraud in Indiana, Mike Pence's state. No voter fraud? No voter fraud. Really? No voter fraud? Here's this guy, Robert Creamer. He resigned from a group called Democracy Partners, bragged about how, they had layers of, the Clinton campaign paid the DNC paid somebody else, and they paid Democracy Partners. This guy, Robert Creamer, right here, he resigned. The story was so fake. He resigned Democracy Partners. He's only been at the White House 342 times with supposedly 47 meetings, actual face-to-face meetings with President Obama. Robert Creamer, but there's no voter fraud. There's no bragging about committing fraud or people's, how they're viewed and how they're actually viewed. No way. There's no fraud. No, and then you hear all these deplorables. This idea of they're deplorables. These people are deplorable. So here you have all that information about how they're hiring, street people and hiring, some cases, mentally ill people. Here is USA Today. Now this is the same day in which they're proclaiming there's no fraud. And this is also, now you know that all the violence at the Trump rallies was done by these groups that were inciting the rallies. Hold on, let me get this. Here we go. So here we have a visual assist. There's no fraud. And, to show you what a Trump voter is, here's how they depict a Trump voter in USA Today. This is a Trump voter. Some guy with a headband and a beard and, kind of screaming, white guy. These are the deplorables that Hillary's talking about. That was a coordinated effort for her to come out with the deplorables after this guy and other people came up. This is more of this fraud. This either the image, negative image building, dirty tricks, voter fraud, bragging about it. And he's at the. President Obama said, "Well, thank goodness that something to the effect that Democrats can control the polls." And here we have more of the fraud. And the other fraud that Trump was talking about is the mainstream press, which I know a lot about, the mainstream press. I mean, listen, it was very hard for me as a reporter to get anything by management that didn't want to go on the air. I mean, as I was telling you, in the past, that there was a big review process at ABC and CNN. I don't know what it is now. I haven't been there for, 8-9 years. I got USA Watchdog. And there was a big review process. I mean, this is an unbelievable process, standards, legal. Reporters don't get to come on and say, hey, I've got an idea. And they say, okay, what is it? And then they say, well, it's X, Y, and Z. And you have to have an outcome. You don't just get on the air and say whatever you want. When reporters do stories with scripts and video and they go to locations, that's all approved. And what I'm telling you is that, when you see things like this, voter suppression, corporate media declared victory for Hillary Clinton weeks before the election. I mean, you name it, Washington Post. I mean, I think the Washington Post came out and said, it's over. All these other stories. Oh, Trump's way behind. I mean, I don't think any of that. I think Trump's way ahead. That's what I think. And I think internally the Democratic Party knows this. And I just look no further than the Bernie Sanders voters. There's no accounting for over half the electorate. This isn't a few people. This isn't half of your voters you punked. You wiped your feet on, you laughed at him, and you said, get over it. Don't you realize how the real world works? Bernie Sanders was never going to be, the candidate. That's just, we had you out in the rain for a year and a half, and you going to door and raising money and going and collecting money and trying to get people to vote for Bernie Sanders. And surprisingly, Sanders and Trump are alike on two big issues, and that's trade and that's Wall Street. Two big issues. What do you bet Trump gets more Sanders voters than Hillary Clinton? And then we have this collusion laid bare. I mean, you heard Jesse Waters about how people were clapping, and that's kind of anecdotal evidence. But now we have all the WikiLeaks and all the people. Here's the Hall of Shame for weasels. Here's David Muir, the anchor of World News Tonight, and here's George Steph Cash in your pants. I think that's what one conservative radio host calls him, George Stephanopoulos. And these are all people that went to dinner at top Clinton campaign officials. Went to dinner. Here's what is this? Savannah Guthrie, and she's on the Today Show. These are people at CNN over here. Here's John Harwood. He was given consulting for the Clinton campaign. This is the CNN people. Gloria Borger. These are all people that should know better, and this is off the record. We don't want people to know you're totally in the tank. They can think it, but they can't. These are all people that went to dinner parties and went to functions with top Democratic operatives, top Democrats, just before the announcement of Hillary Clinton's campaign. And thank you, WikiLeaks, for actually proving beyond any shadow of a doubt the corporate media is involved. And listen, did any of those people get fired? Anybody get fired? Anybody at the New York Times get fired for allowing people, the Clinton campaign, to edit their stories? Anybody get fired at the Washington Post for covering up news with John Podesta? Anybody get fired at Politico for doing the same thing about, let me get script approval free? Anybody get fired? Anybody get fired for you jeopardizing the news division's credibility by getting in the tank and in bed with the top Hillary Clinton campaign officials a couple of days before she announces her election bid? Anybody get fired for that? No. Remember I told you that when you do stories and work as an investigative reporter, I couldn't mainline stuff on to a Good Morning America. I couldn't tell my boss, I got a great story today. You'll see what it is when I'm on the air. No way. No way. Approval after approval. Just to shoot the story. Approval. Standards, legal, your bosses, journalistic review, a standards review. We need to swat this fly with the canon of, ABC News or CNN, and then the legal review. I mean, it's unbelievable when you are doing highline stories. And let me tell you, this WikiLeaks thing, they're not even covering it. Not even covering major. President was involved in the server. He said he found out about it from the media. Nope, he had his own email address. Unbelievable. He's implicated up to his neck in this, with the Clintons and her private server and jeopardizing national security. And incidentally, she said 17 national security officials said that the Russians hacked. No, they didn't. That was James Clapper. Remember him? He committed perjury in front of Congress. In the Snowden leaks. We're not collecting information. Liar. And he walked that back. He's the head of the 17. No. Nope. No, it wasn't Russia. They don't know. Other sources say it's our own intelligence agencies because they hate Hillary after the whole, server thing, so she could use private servers to cover up the fact she was taking treasonous bribes given in form of donations to the global charity fraud called the Clinton Foundation. Yes, that's right. Multiple servers cover up treasonous bribes to be given to her global charity fraud, the Clinton Foundation. That's what happened, folks. That's it. That's what happened. That's as simple as you can boil it. Well, I just did it for convenience, and I didn't break national security. Well, if the Russians did hack all that stuff, and then they got your emails, didn't they? Unbelievable. Here's the thing on the president. WikiLeaks releases his first batch of emails sent to and from President Obama's secret email address. That should be splattered over the front page of every news organization. That should be everywhere. This is another WikiLeaks revelations, and more WikiLeaks revelations that are going to come right up to Election Day and after about the lying weasels of the current administration and past weasels who want to be in their own administration. Hillary Clinton. Unbelievable. She says now the debates are over. No more naps. I don't want to get in the weeds, but no more naps. My health is great. I have to take naps. Meanwhile, we're getting closer and closer to war. I mean, here we are. We're starting to talk about, more sanctions on Russia. That's a form of war, folks. Russia threatens the U.S. with asymmetrical and painful retaliation if tougher sanctions imposed. That can hurt. Selling our bonds, selling our debt, get your allies, like China, to sell its bonds. This is a real headline, folks. Here we have something that just broke yesterday. That was America stashed thousands of tanks, artillery, equipment in secret climate control caves in Norway, ready for war with Russia. Russia. This is the independent UK newspaper, major. It's like Washington Post in Great Britain. Russia launches massive nuclear war training exercise with 40 million people. And back to the financial thing, talking about asymmetrical, painful. Well, I don't know. Would this be kind of painful? This is a story that broke out earlier this week. Saudis, China dumped treasuries. Foreign central banks liquidate a record $346 billion in U.S. paper. Are you hearing anything about this? That's a lot of debt, folks. That's a lot of debt that the Fed has to liquidate. Remember Hugo Salinas Price saying that the bonds, and I've always said we haven't printed dollars, we printed bonds. And Hugo Salinas Price, the Mexican multi-billionaire who started basically Electra, which is the Walmart of Mexico, bright guy, nice guy, Hugo Salinas Price, and he says, those bonds are like a big dark cloud, and when they liquidate, they'll be raining dollars down on America. What happens when you have a lot of something? Well, the price goes down, the value goes down, and if a lot of dollars are coming home, what did John Williams, what has he been saying for years? He's going to be right. He's early, but he's going to be right. More than 16 trillion liquid U.S. dollar assets are outside of the United States. What do you think happens when everybody else says, China's selling its treasury bonds? Saudi Arabia is selling its treasury bonds? Actually, they're raising their own debt offering, Saudi Arabia. And they're going to back it up with their own oil, of course, and that might be a good bet. I don't know. As long as they don't get into a blistering nuclear war. But things in the economic world, money manager Al Arian warns of an enormous risk in public markets, better a seller of stocks than a buyer. Again, this is another big-time player. You've seen him on CNBC and Fox Business and NBC, ABC, CBS. I mean, this is a big-time player. He was a big wig at PIMCO along with Bill Gross. Another big-time player warning of you better a seller than a buyer of stocks. And then we have this from Ambro Evans Pritchard. Over in the UK, Fed risk repeating Lehman blunder as a U.S. recession storm gathers. He's talking about liquidity. Liquidity in the system could seize up. What do you bet if, hundreds of billions, if not trillions of more of those treasury bonds are sold to the U.S. government, sold back to liquidate, because it's the most liquid market in the world. I mean, they have to print the money to liquidate it, right? You're talking about big inflation, and big inflation could happen, boom, in a hurry, not because of wages. We're talking about currency inflation, about the destroying the debasement of the currency, like many people have warned about on this channel. And so the fake stuff, you're getting plenty of fake news. Oh, there's no voter fraud, when there's clear evidence by major sources, Pew Center, for example, about all the dead people on the rolls that are voting, and all the other investigations going on, and things that happened just as far back as 2012, where you have, multiple dozens of counties where Mitt Romney didn't get a single vote in 2 states. Oh yeah, that's not abnormal at all. Not a single vote. And then on the other side, there's nobody telling you that we're getting close to war, that the economy ain't getting better, that there's major danger in the economy, that major players are selling our debt. We sell our debt. Can you imagine what the United States would have to do? What people would have to do if all their pensions were wiped out? If the United States had to live on only its tax base, which would crumble, incidentally. So, on one side, you're being lied to and thought shaped, and people telling, oh, Hillary's way ahead, which I think is a total lie. I think a total lie. And I'm going to double down on she won't be president. There's no way. She will not be president of the United States. And I think the fevered pitch in the press and the exposure by all these organizations, and it's not just the reporters or the anchors, folks, it's management. It's the management of these publicly traded companies who are committing fraud against their shareholders and against the public. They're committing fraud. They hold themselves out as a news organization. They're not functioning as news organizations. They're functioning as propaganda. It's just that simple. And that's what I want you to know. I want you to cut through the BS and know what's really going on. And I don't want you to be, again, I don't want you to be afraid or dissuaded. Some people say, well, the New World Order, they're going to get us and they're going to ultimately win. No, they're not. That's what they want you to think. No, they're not. False, wrong. Do you think if they were on Easy Street and everything was going great, do you think they would commit this big of a lie? Do you think they would get all their troops in order and throw caution to the wind and just say, okay, well, we'll just be biased, forget it. We'll work out the whole news thing after the election. They're going to be destroyed. Completely destroyed after this is all over. They don't have any credibility. They don't have any credibility now. Again, CNN comes out with a poll right after the debate, and they way oversampled Democrats, so they get this this 10, 15 point edge with Hillary Clinton. She got destroyed. I mean, she lost. I mean, her campaign is Donald Trump is bad. And I'm going to, I'm going to have higher taxes, and we'll build some bridges. Stupid. So, folks, don't be fooled by the mind control, the thought shaping, the false information, disinformation. Tune it out, folks. Tune it out. It's totally false, and it's false because they're desperate. They're totally desperate. They know, I think, internally, they know they can't account for all these Bernie Sanders voters. They ain't going to vote for them. They're going to vote for Jill Stein. And Jill Stein says, oh, and by the way, Donald Trump's foreign policy is safer than Hillary Clinton's. She's the a communist, I guess. And you have Gary Johnson on that. These people are going to vote for them. And they're going to vote for Trump. I'll bet you Hillary Clinton, of all those four people, Clinton, Trump, Stein, Johnson, and Kotlikoff. Kotlikoff is also running, Lawrence Kotlikoff. He's on the ballot, too. I just want to bring that up. He's been trying to get me to interview him, and I think I will. I will do it before the election. But I'll tell you, it's unbelievable. He's a smart money guy, incidentally. But it's unbelievable. All these people are going to not, he's a Democrat, too, though. But all these people are not are going to get more votes than Hillary Clinton from the millennials, from the young people that came out and went to these functions and stood in the rain and stood in the cold and raised money and went to all these rallies with Bernie Sanders, who did sell them out. He sold them out. He's going to be for the Wall Street shill. He's going to be for the New World Order TPP shill. After campaign, he's going to be for the one that released those speeches. And then you found out why she wasn't releasing them. She wants open borders. She wants unlimited illegal immigration. That screws African Americans, poor white people, poor black people, poor Hispanics. It puts tons of people on the social rolls that we all have to pay for. It's debilitating. It's unbelievable. So, folks, I just wanted to let you know that don't be made to believe that you're not important, that your vote doesn't count, that it's already over, that Trump's bad and Hillary's good. I mean, Trump has his problems. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. But compared to Hillary Clinton, I mean, and incidentally, she said in the Chris Wallace interview, and I'm surprised this didn't get brought up. I'm surprised it didn't get brought up. The only interview she really did with anybody, Chris Wallace, oddly enough, he was the guy at the debate center, who I think Chris Wallace was fair. But she said to Chris Wallace in the interview, and I'm surprised Trump didn't come on, that, there are limits to the Second Amendment, and, there are limits to the First Amendment. There's the limits to freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to gather. Oh, yeah, limits. She wants to shut down dissension if she is president because she knows her policies are horrible. They want to double down on the Obamacare thing. And what did Bill Clinton say? He said that people are working harder. The people that are getting screwed are small businesses and people that are working harder. And people that are getting half the coverage for twice the price. It's the craziest thing he's ever heard of, he says. Bill Clinton, her husband. So, folks, it ain't going good for the New World Order. Don't fall for the idea that they can do what they want. They're going to have their way with you. It's useless to put up a fight. You shouldn't go out and vote. It's all over. That lie. That is their main weapon. Lies. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USA Watchdog with your comments and your donations. That helps us out. Remember, fear not. God the Father is in charge. He is in complete charge. He will have his way. And I will tell you, last thing, I got together with my preacher. I called him on the phone and said, can we just pray for Donald Trump to do well? Can we pray that we don't get taken over by liars and evil people who are setting traps for us? Can we pray? We did. I'm telling you, I've been more scared about this election than any election. And that's the other thing. Last thing, I'm concentrating on the election. There is no bigger event coming down the pipe than this election. It's a turning point moment. Either some blow up happens just before the election. I don't think so. The powers that be want Hillary, and that would screw her terribly. Or we have a blow up after the election. But a blow up we will have financially. And you better be prepared. Get ready and stay ready. And again, fear not. God the Father is in charge.